Dear students, today's topic of lecture is ecological footprint. In this lecture, we will focus on the impact that humans have on the environment's ability to sustain life. People often think of humans as being separate from environment, but it is completely wrong. Rather, humans depend on the environment, and in fact, our dependency on the environment is much greater than we realize, perhaps too great to be sustained indefinitely. But humans depend and alter environment's ability to sustain life on Earth. So, the important question is, how long can the Earth sustain our current level of resources use? And is there enough of the Earth left for others, that means for non-human species to flourish? Ecological footprint is a measure of how much land and water an individual, population, or activity requires to produce all the resources like plant-based food and fiber products, livestock and fish products, timber and other forest products, space for urban infrastructure it consumes, and to absorb the waste it generates. Ecological footprint is measured in global hectares per person. An ecological footprint measures to what extent an activity uses productive land and sea resources versus how much land and sea is available. Because these two resources are important as their use is required for food, water, timber, mining, energy, and infrastructure. Since the ecological footprint calculates the amount of land and water we need to provide everything we use during our lifespan and to absorb the waste, once we are able to measure our impact, we can use that information to make decisions about how to live our lives. The larger the footprint, the less ecologically or sustainably responsible is the activity. The concept of ecological footprint conceived in 1990 by Matthijs Wackerangel and William Rees at the University of British Columbia. So now we will discuss what was the thought process behind the idea to assess the ecological footprint. We have only one planet. Its capacity to support a huge diversity of species including humans is large, but has finite resources. We depend upon the land to grow crops and provide food. But when we use intensive farming techniques that deplete the fertility of the soil or erode it, we are affecting the land's ability to grow more food to meet our needs in the future. Similarly, if we clear vegetation for farming, housing sites, buildings, or for lumbers or shopping malls, we are reducing the ability of the formerly green patch of land to absorb atmospheric carbon, which in turn influences the climate. Climate change, for instance, can decrease forest biocapacity as drier and warmer weather increases the potential for fires and pest outbreaks. Ultimately, these laws threatens human well-being. How to assess the ecological footprint? In addition to direct use of natural resources, there are many hidden or indirect dependence that humans have on natural resources and in turn on the environment. For example, most of the items in our lives required energy and resources for their production or manufacturing prior to arriving in our possession. Humanity's demand on the planet's living resources now exceeds the planet's regenerative capacity by about 30%. We are using nature's resources faster than it can regenerate. And as a consequence, ecosystems are being run down and waste is accumulating in the air, land, and water. If we continue in such pace, by the early 2030s, we will need two planets. Yes, you heard it correct. we will need two planets to keep up with humanity's demand for goods and services. Let us now discuss to get an idea of how to assess an ecological footprint of an activity like wheat grown on a farmland and is converted into cereal, got packaged in a box and finally shipped to different stores in the city. It required large expenditures of energy and resources to grow, harvest, process, transport, package, label and shipping to the store. Thus, the energy and resource expenditures associated with the entire process needs to be taken into account when an ecological footprint is to be determined for this activity. These resource and energy demands are hidden from us and therefore we often do not consider them when we assess our dependency on the environment. In addition to thinking about the sources of this stuff in our lives, we need to consider the byproducts that are generated during any manufacturing process. Last but not the least, waste generation from these products at home. Let us consider another important example. If you want to have a burger, you need meat, cheese, tomatoes, lettuce, etc. Meat and cheese come from animals. The animals need to eat the grass from the land. Tomatoes and lettuce grow in fields. The burgers are made in a factory. Finally, you would ride or drive to the supermarket or store to buy the products. The entire process ends up producing waste, food waste and the disposable food container. So, all the resources you need every day have an impact on the planet. It makes the ecological footprint bigger and bigger. If we do not reduce the consumption of the earth resources, we will run out of them. The bigger your footprint is, the most you are damaging the environment and the planet. Next, we are going to discuss how to assess the footprints of various objects and activities. As already noted, ecological footprint analysis calculates how much of Earth is required to sustain an individual's lifestyle. It follows that a person's ecological footprint represents the area of biologically productive land and water required to support his or her consumption of a variety of products such as goods, services, transportation, fuel, and food. Biocapacity represents the productivity of its ecological assets including croplands, grazing land, forest land, fishing grounds, and built-up land. These areas, especially if left unharvested, can also serve to absorb the waste we generate, especially our carbon emission from burning fossil fuel. Let, let us ask some questions to yourself. How often do you eat animal-based foods like meat, fish or dairy products like cheese, butter, curd, sweets made from milk, etc.? How much of the food that you eat is processed, packaged and not locally grown? What is the size of your home? Do you use energy conservation and efficiency measures throughout your home? Like use of fluorescent light bulbs, Energy Star appliances, etc.? On average, how far do you travel on public transportation each week? Or on average, how far do you go by motorbike each week? On average, how far did you go by car each week? How many miles per gallon does your car get? Or how often do you ride in a car with someone else rather than alone? Or how often a person flies on commercial airlines in a year? How much waste does your household generate? At the end, all the resources and waste can be measured in terms of the amount and kind of land needed to maintain a specific activity or to maintain our lifestyle. The sum of our demands on nature, that means our ecological footprint, can be compared with the environment's available land. The result is an indication of whether our use of environment is sustainable. It might happen that area demanded can exceed the area supplied. If demand on an ecosystem exceeds that ecosystem's regenerative capacity, then it is called overshoot. Here we have listed down different kinds of land and its finite availability. Everything we use comes out of these 11.9 billion hectares, and much of our waste and byproducts go into these acres. This estimation of different types of land and uses was done in 2007 when world population was about 6.6 billion people. It means worldwide approximately 1.8 hectares of usable land is available per person. If the human population were to use all of this available land, what about the need of other species? Virtually no land would be available for them. Anyways, the figure of 1.8 hectares per person is an upper bound, and that cannot be sustained indefinitely for sure. There are some countries that are the heaviest users of environmental resources, known as ecological debitor. A few countries are there which have the lightest footprint. Bhutan is among a few ecological creditor countries. The world's average ecological footprint in 2006 was 2.6 global hectares per person. However, the earth was only regenerating at a rate of 1.8 global hectares per person. Therefore, in 2006, we were at a deficit of zero point 0.8 global hectares per person. Which countries produce the largest ecological footprints has been up for debate for quite some time. Countries in Western Europe, East Asia, United States, and oil producing countries typically run the largest per person deficits. United States rank second largest. Now, a very vital question is, how many earth do we need? 50 years ago, 1.7 billion people lived in countries that had more biocapacity than their residents demanded. Today, 6 billion out of 7 billion people live in countries where residents demand more than what their ecosystem can renew. If everyone on the planet consumed as much as the average United States citizen, then 3 to 4 Earth would be needed to sustain them. In 1970, people first used more environmental resources than the world could produce. The gap between demand and nature's ability to meet the demand has grown steadily since then. Each year we live in ecological deficit, taking more than can be replenished. Now let us determine our annual footprint using our monthly usage of resources for a specific activity. What is the ecological footprint of a 20-mile round trip commute driven 5 days a week? First, we need to know how efficient the car is. Suppose it gets 25 miles per gallon. Also suppose that there is only one person making the commute. Therefore, we can calculate total miles traveled, that is 20 miles per day multiplied by 5 days a week is equal to 100 miles per week. Now we will estimate the gasoline required during this journey, which is 100 miles per week divided by 25 miles per gallon multiplied by 4 weeks per month, which gives 16 gallons per month. Next, we need to pick the correct footprint factors available on the so-called conversion table, which is shown here on this slide, to determine the footprint of activity or item in terms of land area. Environmental scientists have already determined the conversion factors for the categories like food, transportation, housing, goods and services. Also for stocks and wastes. So we have to use the correct values provided to us on the conversion tables to determine our own ecological footprint for a particular activity. From the table, we have picked up the correct value, which is 500 square years per gallon. Now we are in a position to determine the ecological footprint. That means we are going to express the volume of gasoline in terms of area of land required. So in the last stage, we have calculated our ecological footprint for this activity, which is 16 gallons multiplied by 50 square years per gallon, which is equal to 8000 square years or 1.6 acres. So what we have observed? Relative to the 4.5 acres the person has available for his or her needs, 36% of it is taken up by his commute. Next, the question that comes to our mind is that why do some countries, especially so-called developed, wealthiest countries, consumes majority of the natural resources? Because they buy a lot than they actually need and thereby generates large amount of waste as well. Wealthiest 25% of the world uses 75% of world's resources. Excess consumption by affluent countries takes up ecological footprint that would otherwise used by the poor nations. In a globally interdependent economy, people increasingly use natural resources from other nations. For example, when China imports wood from Tanzania or Europe imports fruits and meat that are grown in other nations, these importer countries depend on biocapacity outside of their borders to provide the resources being consumed by their population. Can everyone live like they do? Of course not. Already we have explained that there is not enough earth to support it. Thus, all poor countries cannot follow the miracle of developed countries. Our continued overconsumption hits the poorer hardest. Actually, they bear the ecological burden of consumption by affluent people. So, is there any solution to this problem? What can be done to reduce our ecological footprint? The first step in reducing the ecological footprints is know and understand the modifications needed to reduce the ecological footprint. After this step, the next most important action to take is reducing carbon emissions. This reduction can happen through education initiatives aimed at residents to encourage a reduction in energy usage, food, goods and services. That means in every sector we should cut down the consumption. Let us find four major areas of the footprint. The biggest part, about 34% of all resources we use for nutrition. About 80% of those resources are used for meat and animal products. The animals we keep for food production exceed the weight of all wild living vertebrates by 20 times, and they are big producer of greenhouse gases. About 26% of our ecological footprint we use for housing. This means not only the area and resources to build a house, but 90% of it is for all the energy we use in the house for electrical devices and heating or cooling. Traffic makes about 21% of our ecological footprint. The absolutely biggest part is from cars and aeroplanes. A train ride has a footprint about 20 times smaller than a flight and about 10 times smaller than a car ride of the same length. The last 19% of our resources we use for consumption except for food. Even if it is not the biggest part, it may be the area where it is the easiest to reduce as consumer goods need lots of resources. For example, one personal computer needs 1.8 tons of raw materials to be built. Because biocapacity is not evenly distributed around the world, uneven distribution of biocapacity raises political and ethical questions regarding the sharing of world's resources. The gap between rich and poor is getting bigger and bigger. Every day, thousands of people starve to death because of poverty. At the same time, amounts of money that could easily make them survive are used for luxury consumer articles. So, everybody should ask him or herself, what consequences do the activities of my everyday life have? We might not always realize, but we are very powerful in this globalized world since our actions have global consequences. For example, every time I consume meat or dairy products, throw away a plastic bag, fly on the airplane, or driving a car, these actions have effects and are therefore not independent from the rest of the world. I am responsible for the consequences, and this fact should influence our choices. It is impossible not to produce any footprint at all, but with a conscious lifestyle, we can satisfy our needs and reduce our footprint at the same time. The following ideas are only a selection of possible steps toward a sustainable way of living, and everybody can choose what he or she is willing to do. Reduce consumption. Buy less. The media and advertising try to make us believe that we need more and more goods to be happy. Like, the more products we own, the happier we must be. But various studies prove the opposite. Reuse products. Do not throw away food and other stuff. Get rid of single-use plastics because most plastic is non-compostable and non-biodegradable. That means every plastic item almost indefinitely exist on Earth. This includes plastic items like bags, bottles, utensils, straws, and other items. You will also reduce your personal consumption and subsequently your ecological footprint in the form of the energy and raw materials used in the production of the plastic products. If you think for a while and give it a try, then it is extremely easy to remove single-use plastics from your life. Like, instead of using disposable plastic bags, use reusable ones. Instead of using plastic straws, just drink directly from a cup or buy a reusable metal straw. Repair products instead of replace. If something breaks down, get it repaired. Recycle whenever you can. Reduce your waste. Choose local, seasonal, organic products. Consume less animal products. Use the bicycle instead of car whenever possible. Take public transport instead of car and so on. Support your community by better quality products and save the environment by purchasing local goods, locally grown foods. Before I end this lecture, I would like to say a few lines. The earth does not belong to human beings. Rather, human beings belong to the earth. Every year, 10 million hectares of productive land are turned into desert. Industrial nations, 20% of all people, produce 10 times as much greenhouse gas than all the other countries together. Someone very rightly said that our freedom to choose any lifestyle cuts down the freedom of others to live a life in human dignity. On March 20, 1987, the United Nations Brundtland Commission gave the definition of sustainability and sustainable development, which is sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Needless to say that the ecological footprint is an indicator of sustainability. It shows that human actions nowadays are not sustainable or future capable at all. If humanity has the will, it has the way to live sustainably because human well-being is dependent on the ecosystem. All of the humanity must work together to re-establish harmony and unity with the natural environment. We have discussed some ways to reduce ecological footprint. Let's implement these ideas in your day-to-day life to reduce your ecological footprint and environmental impact. That's all for now. On that note, I would like to finish today's lecture.